Hello everyone, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. I hope you're staying safe and I hope you're staying well. There's no doubt about it, these are extraordinary times and for some extraordinarily worrying times. Well, not just for some, for most of us. So I hope that you're able to stay on top of letting your fear run away with you, to understand that we are moving into containment now. Enough of the slow responses. We know that there were countries, including the US and Australia and Italy, who didn't jump on this soon enough for a lot of reasons, and we are now being forced into containment. Now in Australia at the moment we've got two of our heavily populated states moving against our federal leader and closing down, really locking states down now. Our New South Wales Premier has said to school children, to parents, please keep your students at home. If you have no other choice, then send them to school. But it's looking increasingly likely that we're moving into a period of containment. The question is, how long will that last? I know that your governors in the US are doing a wonderful job. I think the governor in Ohio has acted very, very strongly. Governor Cuomo in New York has again, he's battling a real crisis with the trajectory like that for COVID-19. They're taking the actions that they need to take. Now, of course, we have the US president again lying. It's not even a joke. It's just so pathetic now. Lying about everything from forcing factories to manufacture supplies that are needed. It's not true. He's not using the wartime, his powers to force that production. They haven't been enacted. So why is he lying about it? We have lying about testing, lying about masks, and of course the personnel on the front line don't have the resources that they need. Health systems are being stretched now as we see this trajectory moving like this, and the US, I think, is in third down the ladder. If you look at COVID-19 in real time, you'll see where countries are at with the number of cases diagnosed, the number of deaths, unfortunately, and the number that have recovered. So, all right, let's start this reading. Containment. We're moving to containment. Well, let's start it we'll start it with the US. So we're moving to containment. I know in the US you've got your big stimulus package stalling in the Congress as Democrats fight for more workers, more money to support workers, and we're hearing stories that some of this package is a slush fund for big business. Well, we'll see if that package, once the negotiations take place, is going to move through the Congress successfully. We'll look at that in a later reading. So, will containment work in the US? Will containment work in the US? Got some governors coming forward very strongly, moving away, like we have in Australia, moving away from the federal response, which is a little bit slow to shut things down, obviously balancing the needs of the economy, and saying we shut down now and then we can open up sooner. If we don't, we're just going to prolong this. So will containment work in the US? I think there's a way to go yet. The Five of Pentacles. There is unfortunately money loss, and that is obviously a card that's going to come forward as we move through these readings. But we've been challenged. The challenge here, or the saving grace, I should say, is that there is direct action being taken. This Knight of Wands has a plan and is moving fairly quickly along with that plan. So even though there's money loss, what containment is doing is in the end mitigating a longer term pain that we're all going to experience. We've got loans and debts, giving and receiving help as the main card coming out. So you can see the economic cost of containment in these cards, but we do have that Knight of Swords there. This is the speed at which this has hit us and hit the US very, very hard. Now, when I say speed, intelligence briefings were available to the US President Trump in January. Red lights were blinking, I think that was the headline, and Trump played the threat down. If you had those intelligence briefings, then you can rest assured that other Western leaders, including in the UK and Australia, had the same kind of intelligence briefings coming forward. Why did we hesitate? Why did we wait? Now we're in containment. All right, the Queen of Pentacles is the what's crowning this reading. This is all about, it's about national security. It's about protecting national economies as well. So how is containment looking in the US? We do have the Queen of Wands. So again, sitting beside this Knight of Wands, I feel that there is a plan there, particularly at the state level. There is action being taken, much needed action being taken. And so even though in the US you have a leader who stands on a podium and lies, you know, every time he gets on that podium, and then the media fact check him and they show the lies, even despite that, you have leadership in strategic areas that is working well for you. The Eight of Pentacles, this is all about people who are unable to go to work, unable to make their money. But we do have the Sun here, and the Sun ultimately is a breakthrough card. So I feel that containment, even though it is causing this pain at the moment, governments are bringing forward strong stimulus packages. Even despite that loss, there is going to be a breakthrough at some point. What the fear though is this devil energy, this toxicity, this you know, the reasons behind why responses were slow. This is also what could be coming forward in stimulus packages that we're also worried about, that in providing tax breaks to big business, then the worker will lose out. And this is why the Democrats in the US are fighting tooth and nail to make sure the worker is covered. But look, we've got the Six of Swords. This is movement, this is travel, this is healing, this is moving on. Containment as a strategy will work, will absolutely work. And we've got going back to the past, to a time before this virus occurred. These are good cards for containment in the US. Objectivity, strategy, logic. That's the leadership quality that you need. Truthful information, and that is coming forward, I think, from your governors. So I read something where Bill Gates, who funded efforts, I think, to address the Ebola outbreak, works quite strongly with some of the African countries to has some experience in this. Of course, there are all sorts of conspiracy theories around Bill Gates, but I'm not even going to address those. He's talking about if we lock down, if we contain, then we're looking at being able to reopen and getting on top of this within about 6 weeks. So I've always felt that the next 2 months are fairly critical, but I do see an easing after that. It's almost like gradual progress. So we're going to feel a lot of pain. I'm not sugarcoating it. These cards are money loss. But look at what we've got in the challenge position to that. We've got a plan, and we've got a plan of action. So that's how containment is going to work in the US. These cards are quite lovely in the outcome position eventually, but we're going to go through the pain. What we need to beware of course, across the world generally, is leadership taking advantage of these conditions, is again trying to throw big, those that don't need it, a bit of a softball. And of course this greed and avarice coming through. So trust in the leadership, of course, is really really important. And unfortunately in the US you don't have that at the federal level. So we have loss here and grief. Again, no sugarcoating. But guess what? We have the Nine of Cups. In some way, there's going to be a breakthrough. And I can't tell you what that is, but there is something coming. And we do have the World card, endings and beginnings, something ending and something new beginning. And we do have the Wheel of Fortune. So, of course, the Wheel of Fortune means that it will again turn and things will improve. So, containment appears to be our best line of defense. Containment will work. All right, so the US, they need to move to that containment. The quicker they do it, the better. And again, I'm getting a strong pull to the strength of the governors who know this, who are moving away from their leaders and knowing that they need to contain because they're on the ground. They're grassroots leadership. They're not in their ivory tower. They're experiencing this first up, and of course, they're making decisions based on evidence. A similar thing has occurred in Australia with two premiers, as I said, pulling away from the Prime Minister and shutting our states down. I live in a state today that is virtually shut down. All right, so let's have a look at the UK. Again, they learned a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about keeping everything open, letting a herd immunity develop. Now Boris Johnson's talking strictly about containment. And this is because we've learnt the lessons from China, from Italy. We know South Korea, Japan even. We know that strict containment works. So the UK is talking about strict containment. Show me how the strict containment, shutting everything down. And of course, this is the big thing here. The difference with the UK is that it was already in a Brexit negotiation, which of course put it behind the 8 ball, which is quite interesting. It's even possible that the UK might go back into the EU at some point in the future because of the disastrous economic costs that this virus has brought forward. Show me the UK. Show me the UK. Will containment work in the UK? It will cost, again, their economy, but yes, it will. We've got the Sun card coming out. It's mass realisation that the only way forward, the only way through this is to go through the tunnel and emerge on the other side. The challenge here is loss, and this, of course, is their numbers are quite high in the UK and similar to the EU countries. But this is also loss, economic loss as well. And they're going to do it tough here. However, we've got that Sun card, which is really nice to see there. We've got unity, and I spoke about this in my last update. There's a movement within the UK to unite, to come together, and to do what they need to do to get through this. There's a very strong, I would call it stoic attitude in the UK. Very strong stoic attitude. So that tells me straight away that leads to strength and endurance, which could be why they got the Sun card. But what is crowning this reading is the Tower. And I do feel that this UK was divided prior to what is occurring globally at the moment. But I do feel they're moving through. The thing with this Tower card is that people look at it and they go, structures are going to break, there's going to be chaos. In one way, yes, but in another, it brings things to a head and they move through it. So in accepting strict containment as a plan, a measure, an action, they're moving through their tower moment. And look what we've got. We've got new starts at the end. The UK is going through the tunnel and it is going to come out. So strict containment. We do have the High Priestess here. So there's something here that's not being, that we're not seeing, that perhaps isn't forthcoming as to why Johnson did this and changed tax. There's something about the truth here. Again, whenever I read on Johnson, I always get these same cards. The Three of Cups are coming together. That is the hope, and that is a celebration, and that's what I see. Actions being taken at the community level. leadership coming forward at the community level. Good leadership, bold leadership, because there's too much anxiety otherwise. So we've got this stoicism, this stepping forward of strong leaders, men and women, at the community level, because they're anxious about their federal leadership in Johnson. They're not really trusting it. We've got the devil here, greed, we've got avarice, and we do have the Seven of Swords, which is lies, and perhaps the full truth not being told. And we do have the Justice card, which came forward in my readings, in my Brexit readings. There are new starts here. And maybe once and for all, this might put to bed this division here as we see communities uniting. So the UK is strict containment. It has the Tower on its doorstep. It knows what it has to do. And, you know, strict containment is the inevitable way to deal with this virus. All right, let's take a look at the EU. Now, France, Germany, Spain, unfortunately, Italy, they're all countries that have been hit very, very strongly by this. Let's see how strong the US is going to be. Is the EU going to be able to bounce back here? We've got containment. We've got leaders working hard for containment, but again, not being quick enough to act. So will the EU weather this storm? Show me the EU. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of cutbacks, obviously. This is the Queen of Pentacles. This is the economy, the EU economy, and we've got going back to the drawing board. There's going to be a whole new framework drawn up to try and weather this storm at the EU level. So show me the EU. Show me containment. Are they working toward containment? Show me the EU. Are they able to contain this virus? They're working hard to do that right now. But what's the challenge? People not accepting the need to do that in the EU. And of course, this is borne out in the evidence with Italy, why Italy was hit so hard. Yes, it does have an ageing population, but enforcing containment is also difficult. So this is the challenge, and they're working on this right now. They know it. They have to win the people over to convince them that this is serious, that they do need to stop and shelter in place, basically. And we do have the King of Swords coming forward in the past. So I feel that they're learning this lesson as we speak. And there is this coming together, crowning this reading. So I feel that the EU will slowly but surely get on top. Here we go. We have our containment here. And some nice cards going back to the past. And I get a sense of this, that this is a more simple way to live behind closed doors. We've seen all the footage of singing on balconies. There is some kind of joy, this new emotional start here. Again, I see stoicism in the UK. In the EU, I see in those EU countries, I feel a going back to a simpler time and reconnecting with emotions. It's looking quite good, because the fear of this Tower moment has driven them this way. It's a necessity. But unfortunately, you're seeing high numbers with this Ten of Swords in the EU. You will continue to do so. The Page of Cups, we will hear that's bombshell headlines coming forward, and the Ten of Pentacles. It could be around savings and the economy. There could be that's the information that may not be trickling down yet. Let's see what's on the bottom. We've got justice and we've got partisanship. And of course, we've got something coming forward out of control. That's what the virus has done. But we also have the Six of Swords, healing after loss. We do have reliability, albeit a Knight of Pentacles. So to me, that in time, the economy in the EU will start to bounce back. But they didn't take this seriously enough. Total containment was not adhered to. It is being adhered to now, though, and they will move through this, and eventually their economy will bounce back. Let's have a look at Canada. Canada is doing quite well. Australian numbers now have overtaken, I think, on the world counter. The last time I looked last night, Canada was behind Australia. So whatever's Canada's doing, and I do think it's strict containment, is working well. All right, so strict containment, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, is the way through the tunnel to get to the other side. All right, so let's have a look at Canada. How's Canada doing with containment? How's Canada doing? Yeah, I'm feeling quite well. So we have good leadership, and I am told that in the provinces, good leadership is coming forward. Challenged by the Queen of Cups, so that generally, again, is the Queen of Cups has something to reveal. We've got retreat here. This is enforced retreat. This is taking time out. This is also the reason that the containment is working is I think Canadians take this virus very, very seriously and what it can do very, very seriously. There was a reasonable unity there in the past that has stood Canada in good stead. Unfortunately, crowning this reading is loss. And this is, the Five of Cups will come forward in all sorts of, in any reading I do. The Five of Swords, abuse of power. This could be people breaking containment. But we've got the Ace of Cups in the here and now, which is new starts are coming together, a unity here. Challenged, of course, all the environment around here is the virus. And I feel this is why Canada is doing well, because they did come together at the right time. And we've got leadership in working at that province level that is doing quite well. We did have an objective, logical approach here. It's interesting how each country comes forward a little bit differently in the cards. We do have the Nine of Wands, so this is sitting up against the Five of Cups. So again, Canada's not going to get off scot-free. We do have loans and debts, of course, the economy. This is giving and receiving help, and we have a loss here. Some are going to lose. But ultimately, we have new starts. We have the Tower moment. This is what Canada is working through. It is hard going. People are anxious, but look what we've got. We've got a beautiful healing here and a balance coming back into things after this is all over, a rebalancing. So I feel that whatever Canada was stuck on before this virus, they will be able to restart again. This is almost a reset for Canada. All right, so let's take a look at Australia, and then let's look at why Russia's numbers have been so low before we start to get too long a reading here. Let's have a look at Australia. How's Australia doing? How's Australia doing? States breaking away from the federal government. It's quite unusual that they would do that, but they are on the ground. Again, like governors in the US, they're on the ground and they're seeing things very, very clearly. So how is Australia doing with containment? We had, like the US had in Florida, our Bondi Beach was packed a few days ago. They've now closed the beaches. So our biggest threat is people not taking this seriously. How is Australia doing? Show me how Australia... We're going to get enforcement. We're going to get now moving into enforcement. Here's our Knight of Swords. It's a harsh truth. So we're going to enforce containment. That's that's the stage we're moving into, because our numbers are increasing exponentially with that Eight of Wands. let's have a look at the foundation of the reading is that, like most other countries, we're going to rediscover things within ourselves that are going to be that we're going to bring forward. It's going back to a period in time that was less stressful. So again, everything has a benefit, even though we can't see it yet. We've got an inevitability. Those that weren't accepting containment understand we are moving now toward the inevitability that we must shut down. The truth is hitting people hard. The Hierophant, we've got government again taking action. Here we have the Knight of Swords, the Eight of Wands, state government moving to contain, taking those hard decisions with the Two of Swords. Because of the economy. And look, I just want to stop here. Yes, there's going to be economic loss. Absolutely there is. We're all experiencing it. But we've still got the Knight of Pentacles coming through, which means containment is the thing that will prevent wholesale loss. Let's keep going. The Ten of Pentacles is the fear. People are fearing what they've saved will dwindle. And indeed, unfortunately, that's probably going to be right. But we have to move through with this Nine of Wands. We have to move through a plan to prevent loss. And, of course, we have the Tower moment. So these three cards are probably generic around the world in countries that failed to contain back at the end of January. I'll get to Russia in a minute, but strict containment is the only way forward. We are already going to experience loss. If we don't contain, we'll experience greater loss. And so leadership in Australia is slowly coming to terms with that. Will people be brought along? Probably not. There will be those that will feel that this is an overreaction. So I'm just going to draw a general pull before I finish. Well, are we likely to see what I would describe as martial law? Now, one of the states in Australia has deployed 500 extra police to enforce containment. The Empress card just jumped out there. In order to continue to have that opportunity, to have that abundance, then we have to take this hard action now. What the worry is, and I'll close down this reading and read separately on that, the worry is that leaderships that we may not necessarily trust may use this opportunity in some way to get things through, to change things that otherwise wouldn't be changed, that may benefit them in the future. So it's like an opportunistic type of approach here to martial law and enforcement. We'll just call it enforcement. Are we likely to see generally across the world troops, National Guard, police enforcing containment? Are we likely to see this? We are. In fact, we're already seeing it. The Five of Pentacles. This, of course, is to bring people inside. This is, again, to stop the monetary loss. It's like hemorrhaging, needing to put something on that to contain the environment. Leadership. Now, this is the challenge here. Leaders may not necessarily be able to stop the loss unless they enforce containment. The Three of Cups, that's the foundation of the reading, coming together. That's a third party. So this is you, government, and a third party, the National Guard, the police, troops in some instance, because we've got this dark night of soul. We've got total and utter downfall with the Ten of Swords. The Eight of Cups crowning this reading. This is loss. Okay, so this is the motivator. Here is the Knight of Pentacles, to ultimately protect the economy. So this is the reason why you get this mobilization. And this is, in one way, we need to understand that those packed beaches, closing those beaches, putting policemen patrolling the beaches is actually working in your best interests. endings and beginnings, the world. You're going to see this approach being adopted across the world. The Page of Pentacles, of course, this is to protect the economy, or that is the reasoning behind this. The Page of Cups, there is going to be bombshell information, surprise news, and this is what we fear. We fear that one day we'll just wake up and we'll see troops on the streets. This is the fear here. And there's a high deal of anxiety, of course, attached to this idea that we might be enforcing containment. But we do have the Queen of Wands, and I want to say this, that we live in democracies and we don't live in dictatorships. We don't live in China. We're not going to drag people off and imprison them. We've got democratic institutions and structures operating, and they will hold because the truth will be known. In a dictatorship, the truth is not known. So again, in America, in the US, you may have a president that doesn't tell the truth, that makes things up for political expediency, but you also have a strong democracy there. And so that should counter some fears. Self-defense, standing one's ground, protecting the abundance, and of course this battle weary. We do have fears around secrecy here with this High Priestess, and that's valid, but I'm not going to read on that here today. We do ultimately have people coming together. So again, keep your thoughts positive, because we do have the Wheel of Fortune. We are going through the dark tunnel, but we are going to come out the other side. This isn't, and I keep saying it and I'll say it again, it's not Armageddon. It's not the end of things. These cards aren't showing me the end of things. 2 to 3 months, I feel, we're going to be suffering, if you like, but we are moving slowly and gradually, or we will move slowly and gradually out of this. Containment is the only way now. Okay, I'll be back again with another reading soon. Thank you for tuning in.